penalty. So we took the £19,000 deposit, we didn't reject it, we were very happily banked it, so, but that put the property in about £6,000 in negative equity. So for that reason we put a £6,000 early redemption penalty. So if she were to complete early, she would pay that extra on top of the purchase price. Unfortunately for us, and fortunately for her, in 8 months she already settled her divorce, and she had quite a substantial amount of cash from the sale of her family home. And she wanted to complete early. She said, well, I'm ready to complete. I said, Tina, do you know that you have to pay £6,000? She said, no problem, I will pay it. I just want to transfer the property over. She said, okay, fantastic. And that's how we completed the deal. So we paid nothing, and in 8 months we had it completely settled.
How much did we make?
£19,400.
How much did we pay for the property?
Zero.
Any tenants moved in?
No tenants.
Any renovating? Any
No.
furniture to buy?
I spent a little bit of money on the signs.
On the signs, on the yellow signs, it cost us a few bob. Let's look at another babysit. As I said, we're going to repeat the idea so you can hopefully pick it up. This is owned by a taxi driver, actually, a guy called Bob. Bob's hurt his foot, so he can't work, and now he's in arrears with his mortgage. We was talking to him on this Wednesday, and next Thursday, next week, he was going to be repossessed by GE Money. He was only £1,800 in arrears. He'd already started packing his boxes, and he was going to move in with his sister. So he knew he was going to give up the house. So we said, Bob, how would it make you feel if we could pay the arrears for you? We'll babysit your house, we'll babysit your mortgage payment, so we'll clear off GE Money for you. You pack your boxes, we'll give you some more time to pack your boxes, give you another few weeks, you move on to your sister's house, walk away from the problem and we'll deal with it for you. Well, he jumped at the opportunity, so now we have control over the house, we're babysitting the house, babysitting the mortgage payments under a single legal document, and now we sell it on an instalment contract.
This time I didn't want to bother with ugly signs because we had a newly opened Rightmove account, and we decided, okay, Rightmove is a great place to sell installment contracts. We have a special agreement with Rightmove where we can list the property under the deposit amount. So when you go on Rightmove, ladies and gentlemen, and you click in your area, when you do your search, do you click lowest price first or highest price first?
Lowest.
Yes, so that's what most of the people do.
It's like being at the top of Google.
Yeah, so because we list under the deposit amount, this property, £7,000, moves it in. So when you list under the deposit amount, our property always comes up on the first few places. Do you think we have higher exposure than an estate agent?
Yeah.
Well, massively more. Actually, we run a test run 1 week on a property in London, and we put it under the full market price, and then we put it next week under the deposit amount. The results were crazy. I mean, under the deposit amount we had 120,000 clicks in 1 week. Under the full purchase price we had 260. So that's how much difference it makes. So that's what happened with this property. We listed it same day after we signed the contract with Bob, and by the afternoon we already had a keen buyer in the office. So these were a couple that arrived in the UK 5 years ago, and African couple. They were both in the social care industry, self-employed, so they couldn't get a mortgage. So they were living in a 2-bedroom flat in Dagenham in East London, and their monthly payments was exactly the same for this 3-bedroom property. They had 2 kids, and they were living in a very, very small space. So they love the fact that they can own a 3-bedroom house only with £7,000 deposit and same amount of monthly payments. But it was slightly outside London in Kent. So Doug did the viewing. Doug, how did you sell the house?
Well, it's all about the children. So there was the parents turned up at the house, and Bob was there to do the viewing, and I turned up to help and do the viewing. So the parents were there, 2 young boys, one about this big and one about this big. And I said to the youngest boy, as we stood outside the house, if you run inside and find your bedroom before your brother gets in, before your elder brother gets in there,
Competition.
pick out your bedroom. So he ran inside, and by the time we'd all got in there and went upstairs, this youngest boy was in the smallest bedroom, and there was a bed in there, and this youngest boy was really like excited about this bed. I don't think he'd been sleeping on a bed before, maybe on a mattress on the floor, but he was excited. He said, there's a bed, there's a bed, there's a bed. So I said, Bob might leave the bed behind for you. If you go and ask him, he might leave it for you. Because it wasn't any use to him, he was moving it with his sister. So he ran in the other room with where his parents were with Bob, pulled on Bob's coat and said, Bob, can I have the bed? And Bob said, yeah, of course you can, I'll leave it behind for you. That basically just sold the house. So it's about the emotion. We get people involved emotionally, and the children bought the house, but basically not the parents. Let's have some numbers on this, so we need to move on.
We took £7,000 up front, £250 net cash flow. This is the difference between how much G money charges every month, plus the payments towards the arrears.
Excuse me, can you just move aside so we can't see the screen?
Sorry. So yeah, we get about £807 for this property every month, and we pay, after we pay the mortgage, we have £250 net cash flow. So we, on average, have counted that it takes 5 years, on average, somebody to cash out from a deal. Basically 5 years to either sell a house or go and get their own mortgage from high street lender. So based on a 5-year calculation, we're going to make £15,000 net cash flow. This is already 3 years into the contract. So £7,000 up front, £15,000 from cash flow, massive 20 grand from the back end. Remember, when we start babysitting the mortgage, Bob had a little bit of equity in the property, so he was very happy to leave that behind, and we took that. And the back end profit is the difference between how much the buyer owes us on completion and how much we owe our lender. So,
How much we make on this?
£42,000. How many of you would like £42,000 from a 3-bedroom standard house?
So how much did we pay for this?
Nothing. Well, we paid £1,800 towards the arrears.
We got that back from...
£7,000.
Good. And did we move any tenants in?
No,
Did we do any repairs?
no,
Any maintenance?
no.
Let's move on. So, babysit number 3, another Bob in Dartford in Kent, and he was a reluctant landlord. Wanted to sell the property. This guy had £15,000 of equity locked up in the property. All he wanted to do was sell the property, take his £15,000 and go. He'd had offers on the property, but nobody was offering the price that he wanted. So we said, Bob, how would it make you feel if we could give you the price you're looking for, we could deliver you the £15,000 that you want, in return that you're flexible about the timescale in which we deliver the money to you. In other words, can we deliver the money to you some way down the line? He said, as long as I get my £15,000, I don't mind waiting. That was it. We took control over the property using a single document, so we're now babysitting the property, and we're babysitting these mortgage payments, so we don't need to go and get a mortgage to buy the property. And now we have control over the property, so we sold it on an instalment contract. So let's have some numbers on that.
Again, this was a couple that was living in Lewisham in 1-bedroom flat, and they were just getting engaged, and they wanted to own something. The fiancée was working as a full-time nurse in a hospital, and the husband was a trainee doctor. So they had quite a bit of savings. They had actually about £11,000 in savings, and we were asking only for £5,000 up front. But we knew that the house needed some refurbishing. Bob had a tenant in the property, and the property hasn't been touched for quite a long time. The carpets were old, the wallpaper was very, very old, and the kitchen needed an update. So we offered that to the tenant. Said, look, you don't have to put all your deposit in, all your savings in as a deposit. You can only put £5,000, and you can spend the rest on doing the house up in your style. So they loved the fact that they had that option. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the key. You don't have to buy a house discounted to make money. As long as you get favourable terms, you can still make a lot of money. Okay, we didn't get the house discounted from Bob. We're still paying his full price, as we promised, the £15,000 after our buyer completes. But the key here is we found out that the property had a very cheap mortgage rate. It was with JP Morgan, a rubbish lender. But their rate was 2.75%. So that gave us massive cash flow. So we thought, Well, rather than we make the money on the price, we can make it on the cash flow. So if you lock our buyer in on a long-term period, we're going to make a fortune from the cash flow. And that's why we took £5,000 deposit. We charged actually 15% above the market value for this property. We took £5,000 deposit, and we're making £480 net cash flow after we pay the mortgage. So over a 5-year period, £28,800 net profit just from cash flow. Also, £37,000 back-end profit, massive back-end profit. Remember, we owe Bob £15,000. So after we pay him, we got 22 for ourselves. So over 5 years, £5,000 from deposit, 28,800 from cash flow, and £22,000 back-end profit.
Total profit.
55,800. How many of you would like this?
Remember, we haven't paid anything for this property. We haven't purchased the property with a mortgage. We haven't moved any tenants in, so we have no expenses. We have a buyer in the property paying for all the costs.
And we paid Bob's price. We didn't argue about the price, but we knew that we're getting excellent terms on it.
How many people are out there trying to sell leads with a discount, below market value leads, but they can't get the below market value deal, so they have to throw the lead away. So we ask those lead generators if they can give us those leads, because we can make good money from them. So we're prepared to pay full asking price, providing the terms are correct. So let's move on and have a look at free recording. We are recording this, and to help you, if you're interested in what we have to say, you can re-look at this in your own time. We'll send you a free recording. All you have to do is to go to the back of the room at the end of this presentation and fill your details in, and we'll happily email you the recording. So please be at the back of the room, because we're leaving quite early tonight, so get to the back of the room as soon as you can and fill your details in.
For those of you that couldn't write all the numbers, please put your details down on the back on the list, so on the recording you can watch it, stop and watch again.
Yeah. Hands up. Anybody here knows what a lemon is?
It's a fruit.
A fruit. Fantastic. Mesud, can you explain what a lemon is, please?
A lemon is a property that you don't want to own. It could be a property that is upside down in value, where the mortgage outstanding is higher than the value of the property. Usually those are properties that are purchased at the height of the market, 2007, 2006, when almost everything was overvalued.
Can you show us this?
Well, pretty much like that. If the house value is, for example, £100,000, and your mortgage is £110,000, this property is £10,000 in negative equity. So if you had to sell this property today, it would cost you money. So if you put it on the market, somebody made an offer, even pay you full market value, you still cost you £10,000 to get rid of this. So most people are keeping those properties in their time bombs. Also, a lemon is a property where the rental income is less than the monthly outgoings. That could be the mortgage, plus the service charge, plus the ground rent, plus maintenance. It also could be a property that is just cash flowing, but the slightest increase in a standard variable rate of your lender will put it in an upside down position. Recently, Santander had a standard variable rate of 424. Now they increased it to 474. That all of a sudden created about £7,000 negatively cash flowing buy-to-let properties all around the UK.
Let's
So,
explain how that looks like.
pretty simple. If you're renting a 2-bedroom house, £525 rent, monthly outgoings are £645, and you're £120 in negative cash flow. What's the point of owning properties if they're not making you any money?
Does anybody here have one of these? I don't mind admitting I have.
You need to come on my course, Doug.
You're absolutely right. But there are thousands of these in the UK right now, and it makes you feel as though you've been served up a lemon. Not only that, it just empties your pockets. Because if you've got a property that's not only in negative equity, but it's also in negative cash flow, and there are thousands of these, and investors own these properties, every city centre in the country has negative cash flowing properties. So we're going to show you how you can resolve that problem. So this is an example. Actually, this has been on this slide for quite some months now since we've been doing this tour. But funny enough, this property is in Manchester. It's some of you may know Castlefield Locks in Warstone Lane, on the canal. Apparently, I've never been there, but it's on the canal. Apparently, a lovely property, but it is in negative equity and it's in negative cash flow. The reason is because I purchased this property sometime back in mid-2000s, and the developer that was sold me this property off plan was so generous, he gave me £12,000 cash back on each of the properties. Such a fantastic deal. I bought 2 of them and banked £24,000 and had 2 properties to let. I didn't even need to let the properties really because I had all this money in the bank. But unfortunately now, they're in negative equity and negative cash flow.
Do you still have the money, though?
Well, I spent it on the negative cash flow. So I can't even sell the property because for me to sell this property I need to find a lot of money. So Mesud sold it on an instalment contract. So let's, oh, that's how it makes me feel actually, like I've been served a lemon. You know, you go out for a steak, steak and chips, and they serve you a lemon. You don't know what to do with it, do you?
Lovely.
So,
you bought a property, 12 grand in the bank, now you got this. Lovely.
Explain.
Well, it was very funny actually. A couple of years ago, Doug is coming up the stairs and his face is not good at all. I said, Doug, what happened? He said, well, I just had my yearly account and I've got a couple of lemons in Manchester and they're costing me about £120 each. I said, Doug, well, would you like to bring the file from downstairs so we can look at the numbers so we may sell it on an instalment contract? You never know. He brought the file upstairs and I opened it. I saw £138,500 mortgage on them. 1 bedroom flat in Castlefield Locks, near house. How much do you think it's worth? Any suggestions?
90 grand.
90 grand?
80.
Anyone bidding up higher?
No, lower.
Huh?
Lower.
Well, yeah, 100. Let's assume it was 100 because I searched it on Rightmove. Just put the postcode in there. 1 mile radius, 1 bedroom flat. There was only one for sale in the same block for £99,000. It wasn't sold for about 8 months. So he was saying that when it was listed and that it wasn't sold. So I said, Doug, you've got a bit of lemon here. It's about £40,000 in negative equity and we need to get rid of this. And we need to get rid of this really, really quick. So let's see if there is somebody out there in the UK that would like to own a house, well, a 1 bedroom flat in central Manchester in a beautiful location, and somebody that doesn't want to rent anymore and they'd like to get on the property ladder. Well, we put it on Rightmove. We put it under £5,000 and we start getting lots of calls. And one gentleman called, his name was John. He called and said, well, I like your 1 bedroom flat. I said, John, really? Yeah, I love it actually. It's very beautiful. I said, John, well, what do you do? He said, well, I'm a bus driver. I'm a coach driver basically, driving from London to Manchester, and I rent a place in Manchester and I'd like to own a home. I said, John, have you got some deposit to move in? He said, I've got £11,000 actually, but I'd like to park only £5,000 because I'd like to have some spare money in my bank account. I said, John, great, that's exactly what I'm looking for. How much do you earn? He said, well, I earn £1,800 a month, quite decent income, and I can afford the monthly payments. Right, we sold this to John for £5,000, okay? Here is the key. John is a buyer, not a tenant. Once they move into a house, exchange contracts, now they're buyers. Remember, even if we sold on a lease option, we're still the landlords. We're still responsible for service charge, ground rent, and probably maintenance because we issue an AST. But when you sell an installment contract, they are the buyer. Now they are responsible for the service charge and they're responsible for the ground rent. Also, you don't have any of the standard landlord problems. Well, renting this property is a cost on its own in Manchester, and we've never seen it. Estate agents do the old job. So, all of a sudden, property that was £120 per month in negative cash flow is £260 in positive, because he's paying us £800 a month, plus he's paying the service charge, he's paying the ground rent. So, we took £5,000 up front, £260 net cash flow every month. Over a 5-year period, £15,000. Also, we charge a higher price. We charge him 143,999.